Hey, this is David Neese with the Electric Vehicle World, where we talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock market. Today, I'm here with our founder, Bill Moore. How's it going, Bill?
It's going.
First of
It's
all, we're
it's
gonna,
electrified.
there you go. Uh, it's everything's electric.
Yeah,
Well,
my
first,
I got a good recharge overnight and ready to go.
nice, nice. And I like Bill's been doing some changes on the site, and we now show the podcast over here. So if you're on the evworld.com page, you can see what our most recent podcast has been. We're going to go over some of today's top stories. So for starters, let me see if I can change how I'm sharing here today. We're going to talk a little bit about the new Lamborghini Lanzador. It's kind of exciting. Obviously, today we're not talking about affordable electric cars. Okay, so
No, you have to seriously be in the at least the millionaire class for these cars.
yes, yes, and these you don't just need to be a one percenter. You need to, for those of our listeners that are current professional athletes and TV stars,
Right.
these are some options you might choose. Now, the first electric Lamborghini isn't due till 2028. We're told the Lanzador provides a concrete preview of the production vehicle. It's pretty slick looking. It looks kind of like a bit of a crossover, I guess. You
Well,
look
it's
at it.
yeah, it's meant to be an SUV.
Okay, so
So it's
look
so
at the
it's not
ground
your
clearance.
typical Ford Explorer.
Right. Well, I used to own a Ford Explorer, and it used to bottom out on things all the time. They had
Okay.
a low front air dam, and so that would be my fear with something around here. But it's a cross between an SUV and a supercar. It's pretty sharp looking. I feel like I could drive that in a sand dune. Let's see. So, anyways, we've got 23-inch wheels.
Yeah, monster.
Oh, it looks really
You're gonna
nice
pay a fortune
inside.
just to put tires on this car.
Yes, yes. It's interesting kind of see. Oh, some of it's made from 3D printed recycled foam. Lots of in
Yeah, that's a
sustainable
trend that's
materials.
yeah, a trend that the automakers are trying to accelerate is, how do we make these cars as recyclable and repurposable as we possibly can?
Yeah, so the pilot and co-pilot will sit low within the cabin as if it's a jet. I like that because that always feels really good on my bad back when I'm trying to climb in and out of something like that. So it'll be good if I don't own one of these. But but
Remind me to tell you the story someday when I was at a car show and had to try to get out of the newly introduced BMW i8.
oh
Um,
wow. Yeah, that one sits pretty low too.
that one really sits low, yeah.
Um, let's
And it's
see.
one of the reasons I got rid of my Honda Insight Hybrid because I was
Well,
just getting too old to get in and out of that car. It sat, I don't know, 6 inches off the ground, something like that.
this article's from Fast Company, which is different. Inside Rymax Quest to break its own EV speed record.
Yeah,
Sharp looking.
what's interesting about this one is it starts off with the observation by Neil deGrasse Tyson
Hmm.
saying that a car will never go faster in the horizontal plane will never go faster than 1 g, one force of gravity, right?
Right.
And Mate Ramick, the founder of the company, said, "Hold my beer." That's the way he put it, and went out and did 1.5, I think.
Well,
Of
19.
course,
Yeah. Oh, here's the new world record in 0 to 60 of 1.74 seconds.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, but you
1900
needed
horsepower.
almost 2,000 horse. I got to thinking about that this morning. I said, why are we in the 21st century still using the term horsepower? Can you imagine you've got a car, and in front of that car, you've got 1,914 horses?
Well, I think we're gonna have to keep using that because horses are not internal combustion.
Yeah, well, we can, the right, the proper technical term is kilowatts, right?
I would call it the horse's brown energy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, at least their exhaust is recyclable. So
Yeah. Well, the nice thing is the Rimac does not leave as much crap on the road as 1900 horses would.
no, exactly.
Yeah. Um,
But therein also is the problem, which is why I ran these articles about these supercars, because there's a number of them that came up on my feed, and I said, this poses an interesting conundrum for these developers, which is the guy they had at McLaren. Um, what is it, Tim Lights or something like that? Um, Pointed out. He says it doesn't make sense for us to make our supercars electric. Do you know why?
because they're not driven enough.
Because they're not driven enough. Yeah. Yeah, to get, that was the point that, and the most recent argument against electric vehicles is there's so much embedded energy to make one of these cars compared to a gasoline car that you got to drive it so many miles before you recover the energy that you have expended to take and produce the car. Which of course sounds kind of negative, but then when you think about it, how long does the average American car or the average consumer car get driven? And typically it's in the 100,000, 150,000. They're saying that electric cars could go, probably easily go 200,000. We've got Teslas that are in the million-mile range. So at what point, you might only own that car for 15, 20,000 miles, and then you trade. But
Right.
somebody else is going to come along and buy that car. They're going to drive it another 15, 20, 30,000 miles. And maybe there'll even be a third owner who'll pick it up because he needs a beater, you know, and he'll drive that maybe to up into the 200,000 mile range or higher. Now, of course, at some point there may have to be some battery replacement, but we're just assuming it keeps the same battery. Um,
I've met lots of drivers of Tesla Model 3s for Uber that are putting 100,000 miles
yep,
a year
yep,
on the Model 3, driving people back and forth to the airport.
yep. So
Um,
yeah,
but
it's not a question of how many miles I drive to justify my electric car. It's how many miles the car gets driven through its lifetime. Will it then pay for the energy it took to build that car? And the problem, of course, with these supercars is that, as the head of McLaren says, our owners just typically don't drive them that far. I mean, can you imagine you got a car with a almost 2,000 horsepower engine? You've got a battery that's probably well over 100, 150 kilowatts, and you only drive that car in its lifetime 10,000 miles.
right. Yeah, usually the supercars don't get driven much. And a lot of
Right.
it is they try to hold the value in the vehicle by not overdriving it so they don't
Exactly.
really become daily drivers.
Yeah, you don't want it to be somebody else's barn find.
Right, right. I understand that. Yeah. 1.5 Gs it attempts.
Yeah,
In the time it takes you to read this sentence, the Navara will have gone from a dead stop to 130 miles per hour.
yeah,
5 more seconds, you're at 200. In
yep,
22 seconds, you're at 250, the car's top speed.
yeah.
That's crazy. 22 seconds from 0 to 250.
I don't know when to
Wow.
be moving at that speed at least 10,000 feet, where
Right.
there's no obstacles in front of me except some cloud vapor.
Yeah, I'd be worried I'd hit a deer.
Yeah,
Let's see. It's a little wonder the Volkswagen Group, which owns Bugatti, Bentley, Lamborghini, Audi, and others, had its subsidiary Porsche buy 10% stake in Rimac.
yep.
That's interesting.
They like what he put into that, the technology he put into that car.
Yeah, they don't put a price here, but I think these are about $2 million.
Yeah, they're in that range. Yeah.
Yeah.
If
Oh,
you like a yacht, if you have to ask how much it costs, you can't afford it.
yeah. Yeah, I've heard something funny about the yacht business. If somebody shows up dressed all fancy, wearing a suit and all that, it means they're not going to buy a yacht. And they said that the people who stroll up in long shorts and look like they just got done fishing. Those tend
Right.
to be the ones that
They're
buy
going to be
those,
the
which
ones who are
is
going to buy the
kind of
yacht. Yeah,
funny.
exactly.
We have another one here. I'd never heard of this company before. The Zikr zero
Yeah.
zero one. This is from Karbas. It challenges the Tesla Model S Plaid with four motors making 1,265 horsepower. Let's see.
Eat your heart out, gearheads.
Yeah,
Can you imagine? I mean, that's the kind of power that was put into a 12-cylinder, Packard engine to power, World War II fighter planes.
right. It's crazy to see. That looks nice. Nice
Yeah, it's
looking.
a spin-off of Geely, which is sort of the General Motors of the Ford of China.
Oh,
And this
okay.
is one, yeah, this is one of their, newly introduced brands.
Yeah, it's the Model S Plaid is a little faster on the top end at
Yeah,
200 miles per hour.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
see.
It's got the Plaid's got the car beat by very slim margin.
It's quick. Oh, the battery source from CATL,
Yeah.
who supplies the battery packs to Ford and Tesla. Oh, wow. 641 miles of range is claimed.
Hmm. Yep. That's
Wow.
probably. I think I remember, if I remember correctly, that's their new blade battery technology,
Let's
or is
see
that
that.
BYD has the blade? Anyway, it's
Yeah, well, it's
they
pretty
they
slick
they
looking
they
vehicle.
they are really the world. They're really the world leaders in electric vehicle technology. I probably told you the story before when I was in Beijing 20 years ago, and I met this professor from Eastern Europe who was teaching there at China's equivalent of MIT, and he was telling me about the number of books of his textbook that he sold. He sold, I don't know, 5 or 6 thousand in Europe, and in China the book had sold over 60,000 copies.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they're serious about In fact, I'm just going to post here shortly a story that China's oil company is now stating that they have passed there, because the rise of electric vehicles has been so fast and so widespread, that the leading Chinese oil producer says that they have now officially passed peak oil demand in China,
Oh,
because
wow.
nobody's wanting to buy it anymore because they're going with electric.
That's a big day to have that tipping point. So here's,
Let me interject one more. And speaking of that, there's a wind turbine that was installed and came online something like a month and a half ago. They had this typhoon move through
Mhm.
that area, and that wind turbine generated a record amount of energy for 24 hours, generating enough electrical energy, one turbine, to power 170,000 homes.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So
It's a matter of, are they able to store that energy, properly transmit it? I mean, it's still impressive that it's
oh
producing
yeah,
that.
yeah. What happens below the turbine and the distribution through the sea cables and things, I couldn't tell you, but at least in terms of the amount of energy that thing produced, one turbine, phenomenal.
And it wasn't destroyed.
And it wasn't destroyed, interestingly. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a big piece too.
which is
And here
yeah,
was an
pleasing.
article you were talking about earlier from City AM about the McLaren chief making electric supercars. Doesn't make sense today.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an interesting perspective. But a lot of the things that, go into the EVs, when we talk about the batteries, a lot of that's going to change because we see new things coming out where we're going to eventually transition from the lithium to other
Yeah,
materials.
again, I'm going to post this one here shortly when we're done. Argonne Lab has come up with uh, the article is titled basically the same material that goes into the toothpaste is going to power the batteries of the future. fluoride, and they've come up with a special fluoride compound that will basically double the energy storage capacity of future batteries. And I think the recharge time is like 10 minutes and that type of thing. So yeah, we're getting there.
Oh, great, great. Well, anyways, Bill, that's pretty much all we had for today. It was a good
That
episode. It was
that'll
something
work.
different to talk about. All right, and I'll